In today's conversation, we're going to learn how to negotiate your medical bills. Wait, you can do that? Yeah, this one was new to me too. Maybe it's the confusing medical jargon or the assumption that hospitals charge fair prices, but negotiating never crossed my mind. And you know I love to negotiate just about everything. Not only should you be negotiating your medical bills, you should be scrutinizing them for errors. As you'll learn in this episode, 80% of medical bills have errors, and go figure, they almost always work in favor of the medical provider. Today, Dr. Virgie Bright Ellington joins me to share her 3-step process for negotiating medical bills. As an internal medicine physician and former health insurance executive, Dr. Virgie thought she understood the system. That was until she was diagnosed with cancer and saw firsthand how patients get crushed by medical debt. After witnessing her hospital roommate get taken advantage of by balance billing, Dr. Virgie had had enough. Now she is on a mission to help Americans fight back against excessive healthcare cost, one bill at a time. If you want to protect yourself from medical debt and take control of your healthcare cost, this episode's for you. I hope you enjoy my conversation with a medical billing expert and 2-time cancer patient, Dr. Virgie Bright Ellington. You know those moments where you think, I wish I would have learned this in school? Those are the topics that we love to talk about. Join me each week as I interview experts sharing their strategies for solving problems that us young adults will face throughout our 20s and 30s. So what are you waiting for? If you want new episodes about adulting advice every Monday, hit that follow button. Well, Dr. Virgie, I'm really excited about this conversation. I've talked a little bit about health and money, but nothing to what we're about to talk about today, which is about negotiating your medical bills, which I think has got to be a surprise for most people because most people think you aren't even allowed to negotiate your medical bills. But I think it's super important. There's a bunch of stats out there. I think like 1 in 5 Americans have medical debt. And honestly, if we're thinking about financial independence and your own financial security, this is a big, big domino that could potentially fall. Like, I don't mean to scare people, but you can be one accident or serious illness away from a lifetime of debt. So I do feel like this is an important skill to learn, and I'm excited to pick your brain about this. And I want to start in a place for this particular reason, I think is why you should always be negotiating your medical bills. And that's because I heard the stat that 80% of bills have mistakes. From your perspective, Dr. Virgie, is that true? Do you feel like that number holds true?
Unfortunately, it's very true. There's data that shows, lots of data that shows definitely 80%. I think I even saw one statistic that said up to 90%. So I just try to be conservative and just say 80% conservatively. That means that if you paid a bill, a hospital bill or a medical bill of any sort in your life, probably overpaid, just didn't know it. And you don't really know it unless you've been paying a lot of bills or a lot of big bills. That's when you figure it out. But yeah, so think about it, Justin. If 80% of all medical bills have errors, I'm just going to ask you a question. Do you think that those errors are going to be in favor of you, the patient, of us, the patient? Or do you think it's going to be in favor of the provider or the insurance company if you have insurance? You know what? That's a rhetorical question.
I would guess that almost every single one of those mistakes is going to impact you negatively, not positively.
Exactly. Yes, sir. You got it right. That's it. And so you've got to protect yourself. And 100 million folks in the United States are struggling with medical debt, have medical debt. And that's why medical bills are the number one cause of debt and bankruptcy in the United States, which is outrageous. And that is because, and a lot of folks don't think about it this way, but if medical bills are the number one cause of debt and bankruptcy in the United States, Justin, what's the number one cause of divorce?
Money issues,
medical problems, financial stresses, financial differences. So there's a direct connection, a direct relationship between medical bills or medical debt and destroyed families. So when we're young and starting out in our 20s and 30s, even before we get out the gate, we're not married and something happens, we're young and healthy, we're doing our thing. And we have a bike accident, and there you go. Your life is destroyed. Your financial future is destroyed even before you got a chance to get started.
Yeah, and I would guess a lot of people don't have too much experience paying medical bills in this space. Through our teens, 20s, 30s, we're fairly invincible, or at least we think we are. We might have had
Absolutely.
some weekend warrior injuries,
That's right.
but all of a sudden you start having a family, and that is maybe one of your very first exposures to a lot of medical bills. Maybe you have that weekend warrior injury because you're getting a little bit older. Maybe some illnesses are creeping up. This does start to become a reality for you, and you do need to be becoming medically, financially literate. I think that's super, super important. So let's start talking about how you actually go about negotiating medical bills. And the very first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that the statement that you get in the mail, this initial bill that you get in the mail, is actually missing a big piece of information. Can you tell us what that information is and how we go about collecting some of that missing information?
Yes. So a huge problem is that the first bill that most of us get in the mail and the snail mail that is related to some medical service that we had or inpatient service, meaning hospital service, is that they're not real bills. And I use that same 80% statistic, Justin, that I would say 8 to 9 times out of 10, what you're getting from your provider as a bill is not a real bill. It's what I call a summary bill. And the reason why it's not a real bill and it's not an accurate bill is because it doesn't have what's called CPT codes. CPT codes are to medical services what barcodes are to products in a store. So how can you get a summary bill or a bill? Let me just get rid of adjectives. How can you get a bill and just says, hey, yeah, pharmacy, or just a total number? Often they'd even break it out into like pharmacy or laboratories. Often they, instead of breaking it out into huge sections, they put it into one big summary number and they just say, hey, yeah, that visit, that emergency room visit you made, yeah, okay, send us $3,500. Wait, what? Now think about this. Justin, if you go into a grocery store and you go through and you pick up some romaine lettuce or some arugula, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot, I need eggs. So you go over to the dairy section, and on the way out, oh, I forgot the bean sprouts, right? You come back, go through the line, you check out, and you get a bill. You say, okay, this is your total number, what you owe. Okay, fine. So you didn't realize, you know what? There were no prices on any of the products that I saw. As I was going through, I just grabbed it without thinking to check to see how much this is. And at the end of the checkout, I get this huge bill. It's like, wait, and it says produce, dairy, and that's it. What would you think? So the problem is that getting away with this only happens in the U.S. medical industry. It doesn't happen with any other industry and any other company. If you think about it, any other industry or company, we would just just scream fraud. We would just flip out, right? It just makes no sense. So that's the analogy I give. So if you're going to the grocery store, there's going to be listed on the barcode there's going to be a price, and under that is a barcode, right? So that's what you're asking for when you're asking for a real bill. So 8 to 9 times out of 10, what you're given is not a real bill because it doesn't have CPT codes. And I was talking to this guy once who was interviewing me, a radio DJ, said, you know what CPT codes, or CPT rather, should stand for? And I said, what? He says, can't pay this. I said, you're absolutely right. That's a good point. So anyway, yeah, you know what? You can't pay this. If you don't see a CPT code, you can't pay this. So what you're going to do is when you get a snail mail bill in the mail, you're going to look at it and make sure that it has something across the top that has the date of the service, and then something that says CPT or CPT/HCPCS, HCPCS. And HCPCS is a subtype of CPT code. And now sometimes you'll see something that'll say the date of service, and it'll say something like code, just code, or service code. And you have to be really careful because I get lots and lots of calls saying, you know what, Virgie, I had this bill and it says codes, but when I try to plug it in and figure out what it is, nothing comes up. Well, service codes means nothing. It's just something internal to that particular provider's medical center or medical system, billing system. So CPT codes, that is what you're looking for. So what you're going to do is, and this is key, what I'm talking about, Justin, is automatically negotiating a medical bill without really negotiating. And I want to bring this up before we talk about the actual steps to do it, because in this country, in our culture, in the American culture, we're really not comfortable with negotiating. And so a lot of us think we have to have like a really like outgoing personality or have like a silver tongue or be like a lawyer type, have the gift of gab or be very confident or very aggressive or even just assertive. And it's not true. So this is why I teach you the 3 steps of the only right way to pay a medical bill so you can automatically negotiate without negotiating. And this is the tip. Every medical bill is negotiable. You're going to go to step 1. When you get that bill and you look at it and you're like, I'm not sure what I'm seeing or CPT codes, you're going to call the provider's billing office. It'll usually say, hey, this is how much you owe. And then they'll say questions. You'll call our billing department. Yeah, you have questions. You're going to call them. You're going to ask for,
we
my
always
question
got questions.
Yes, I have questions. I want to know how I can get my real medical bill. Now, one thing I like, how should I say? I'd like to remind folks that provider billing departments love it when you call and say, hey, I want an accurate bill. Oh, yeah. They'll send you that bill that you got before. It'll just say service code or just generic or just segments, just nothing, right? Just broken up arbitrarily. So again, you have to be specific. Always ask open-ended questions when you're asking for something, not closed-ended question. A closed-ended question is yes or no, right? So open-ended, how, what, when, where, why. How can I get a bill with CPT codes? That's your question. I received something in the mail. How can I get something with CPT codes? I don't even ask for a bill because I call them statements. You know, what you get in the mail is they're not real bills. I just call them, actually I call them like wish lists, you know, because they're wishing and hoping and praying you'll fall for it, right? And you'll pay that magic number. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, this is my script. I got this bill in the mail. This is what I say when I call, just in quote, I need something with CPT codes, unquote. Now, you may get pushback, and this is their job, especially larger medical systems, unfortunately, when you call and ask for a real bill, something with CPT codes, sometimes you're going to get pushback, and they'll say, well, we don't have that here. You're going to have to call your insurance for that information. But, well, they're going to pretend like they don't know what you're talking about. And so I always teach folks, hey, you know what? By the way, HIPAA, which is a federal law, a federal civil rights law, people think like protects your privacy. Actually, it's in the name, Health Information Portability and Accounting Act. So there's no privacy in the name. It was originally meant to say, hey, you own your medical information start to stop, full stop from the time you show up to the time you end. And that includes any financial information affiliated with your medical care, full stop. There's no excuses. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. No whether you have insurance or don't, or you used to have insurance, you don't. No. By federal law, that is your right to get all of your medical records and financial records associated with your care with that provider, period. So when I get pushback, I say, you know what? I really need to get something with CPT codes as per my rights, per HIPAA federal law. When you say HIPAA, or you have to ask to speak to a supervisor, can I get some, who can I speak with, who can help me get my real bill with CPT codes or my bill with CPT codes as per HIPAA federal law? I've had so many people tell me stories. That changed everything. That changed everything. I saw a story where someone posted their medical bill after having a baby, but they thought it was kind of weird that it had like 2 lines. One line was natural childbirth or something, normal spontaneous vaginal delivery, something like $7,000, something like that. And then there was a line underneath that said like medications or something. And then the third line said skin to skin. What they try to do is bill you for holding the child after the child is born. And when they give you the baby, they charged her $39.95 for that. I can't memorize all the CPT codes. But I guarantee you there is no CPT code for skin-to-skin contact. That's why you have to ask for a real bill with CPT codes. That's step 1.
The big piece is the takeaway of this is you're going to get a summary bill or statement in the mail. It might have some details, but it's not going to have all the details that you're looking for.
Unless it has CPT codes, 80% chance that it won't have what you're looking for, correct?
So if it doesn't have CPT codes, what you're going to do is you're going to call your provider based off of that number that should be on that summary bill. And you're going to ask for some kind of summary of the bill that includes CPT codes. If you get pushback, if it's something that they can't provide, you can name drop HIPAA and let them know. You can escalate it to a manager. But I want to clarify that they do have those CPT codes, because whenever they bill your insurance company is not going to accept the same kind of statement or summary bill that you get. They will only pay a bill if it has CPT codes, because they have to do that in their billing records. So we both know that, yes, they do have that information. So if you get pushback, utilize the fact that HIPAA is out there and that you have a right to that information before rolling over and pretty much calling it dead and just going ahead and paying the bill. Do I have that right up until the kind of the end of step one right now?
Justin, you said that perfectly, 100%, man. I think that actually you must be a certified medical billing advocate. That was perfection.
So Dr. Virgie, now we're going to pick up. So we have the CPT codes. People played nice. They sent you the bill with
a
CPT
real bill
codes.
With CPT
a real
codes.
bill with CPT codes. And now you need to figure out the fair rate. And this might be surprising that somebody can get the exact same procedure or prescription or whatever it may be as you, but you might get charged differently. You might get charged differently because you have a different insurance company, and that insurance company negotiated differently, which I think is bizarre to me. If you walk in and you buy an apple at the grocery store, everyone's paying the same price for the apple, but that's besides the point. The nice thing is, though, there is a large group of people that have negotiated probably one of the lowest rates out there, and you can find this information pretty readily if you have CPT codes. Do you mind kind of picking up the conversation from there and how you use CPT codes and this big group of people that are out there that have negotiated on your behalf to get what should be a fair number to kind of go back and start the negotiations with these providers?
Yes, sir. Exactly, Justin. And the folks that negotiated this for you is actually the federal government. The federal government in the department basically of CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, basically Medicare, has negotiated this for you. And the thing is, you don't have to have Medicare or even close or ever. When we talk about this, when I say, hey, Medicare is the price you want to use because it's been negotiated for you by your federal government, a lot of times, Justin, I get the eyes glaze over. People are like, Medicare? Well, that's for old people. I'm not anywhere near old. What the what? Or they'll say, what if I don't have Medicare? What if they say you don't have Medicare? Well, yeah, just because you don't have Medicare does not mean that you are required, that you are doomed to pay whatever the market says they want to charge you. That's just outrageous. No, that's a no. So yes, you're absolutely right. You have access to the lowest retail rates that medical providers, I should say, providers will accept for medical services that you receive in this country, and that is Medicare rates. And the way you're going to find that is this. You're going to take those numbers and you're going to Google, or now I do an AI search of the CPT code. And you're going to do that because what will pop up eventually, you're going to look for the description and you're looking for something that, let's make sure it sounds roughly like the services you received. So like if you had to go to the ER and they said, you know what, your arm is fractured, we're going to give you a sling and we're going to send you to an orthopedist closer to where you live since you're on vacation. When you get that bill, you want to make sure that that CPT code says sling and not arm fracture intervention or humeral fracture intervention. Wait, what? That sounds like a procedure or a surgery, right? No. So that's why you really have to get the CPT codes. And of course, because it's a barcode for the medical service you receive, you're going to take that barcode and run it through, plug in CPT code. I like the example of 99213, which will come up outpatient office visit. And you're going to say, okay, great. That sounds right. You're going to plug in, especially with AI searches, it's easier just to ask the question. You bump around a lot less. It's a quicker search. I usually ask, what is the Medicare rate or Medicare price range or rate range for CPT code blank? It's 5 digits. So CPT code 99213. I have to tell you, there's still some AI search LLM stuff that doesn't really have like the up-to-date stuff, and they'll give you like a vague journal answer. Just be more specific, keep going, or find another AI platform, or just go and do old school Google. And so that's what you're going to do. You're going to take those CPT codes, plug it into a Google or AI search, and up eventually will pop. Well, initially will be the description of that code, just to make sure that you're not getting double billed and it sounds like the services you received roughly, or that you understood that you received. And 2, most importantly, that Medicare rate, what Medicare pays for that CPT code.
That's great, because actually I see this as a two-prong to get the CPT codes in the description, the itemized bill that's out there. Are they charging you for the thing that was delivered, the service or the product that was delivered, which is important. If you go to the grocery store and you pick up an onion and then they ring you out and they charge you for organic onions or a bundle of onions, well, okay, they're upcharging you maybe by mistake. And I could see that as a total mistake. Maybe the notes got messed up or something got lost, whatever. We can chalk that up, but it's your job to verify that all the itemized services on your bill were the services that were provided to you. And then second to that, after you've verified all those services, you are going to start utilizing those CPT codes and chat or a good old Google search to figure out what does Medicare pay, so that you kind of have, this is the bottom rate, this is the lowest rate that I'm aiming for. So I like it because you might have to call and get something removed or changed on your bill because that wasn't the service that was provided. And you have some rates that you're going to try to start negotiating down after your whole bill is correct with all the services.
Absolutely correct, Justin. You know what, Justin? I think that this is your calling. You can take my job. I'm going to put you out on the road.
Let's get to the third step now. So we have the itemized bill. All of the services are correct. We have a piece of paper that also lists the Medicare prices for those services. We're on the call with the provider's billing department right now. Now what happens? What do we do?
The script is, yeah, hey, I got a bill. And I like to use a hypothetical example of going to the ER. You know, unfortunately, maybe a bike accident and they had to set your arm and do surgery, emergency surgery. Okay, $10,000 bill. So this is the script, Justin. You're going to, once you total up all of the CPT codes and what Medicare pays for those codes in step 2, you're going to take that new number, because that's the number that you're going to say, hey, this is what I'm willing and able to pay for the services I received. The script is step 3, call up. Yeah, hey, yeah, the bill that I got in reference to, I was there last month or whenever, date of service for $10,000. Yeah, I am willing and able to pay. In my case, I am able and willing to pay $3,000, unquote. Now, the reason why I use that hypothetical example, Justin, a lot is because people think, wow, $7,000 difference, that's like crazy. No, that's actually, unfortunately, average. That's just the markup. That's another conversation for another day. Please have me back so I can talk with you. I love talking to you, Justin.
We would rant.
It probably wouldn't be a great episode because I would just go off and
yeah.
So anyway, it sounds crazy. So that's why you don't want to say, well, if you call them, there's a lot of folks who are personal finance experts, but they're not medically financially literate, I have to say. And they'll say, if you tell them, hey, if I give you $5,000 now, will you accept it? And they'll be like, yeah, because that's still more than what they know you don't owe that money. They'll be like, yes, it works. And I'm sorry, when I was in my 20s, 30s, I didn't have just $5,000, 4 figures just lying around. What? Step 3, you're going to take that new number in my hypothetical example, which is not crazy, the difference in the discount or the rate between the Medicare rate and what you're often billed. In my case, I am willing and able to pay $3,000, unquote. Now, the responsible, I have a lot of mottos, Justin, but one of them is, never hate a hustler. They're the folks you're talking to, especially, affiliated with large facilities and medical centers. Their job on the front lines, the billing department, their job is to get you to pay as much as they can get out of you. And so when you call and say, yeah, this is in my case, I am willing and able to pay $3,000, you're going to get pushback. That's their job. So going back and forth, whatever they want to say, at the end of the day, if you feel that they're not being open to your offer, your $3,000, and this is automatically negotiating, you're not asking, and it's not a back and forth. If you don't have the $7,000 or $5,000 that they're asking for, when you know the real fair, lowest fair retail price is $3,000, then don't do it. There's no negotiating, right? You can't get blood from a stone. You're just going to sit there and just keep talking with them. And eventually you can say, okay, who may I speak with, or who can I speak with who is willing or able to help me make a payment plan for this $3,000, period.
Mm.
An example I like to give, my favorite example, Justin, about this is actually my example. Long story. I'll just cut to the chase. The end of it was that I got a bill from a hospital about 6 months after I had to have an emergency surgery. And the bill was almost $90,000. And I knew I didn't know it. That's another story for another day. I had been balance billed. And I knew it. I knew I didn't know any of that money. But again, this is the way this was actually, they're renowned for playing these predatory billing games, which is, they're not uncommon, unfortunately. And it's a nonprofit facility, a regional facility. It's much more common than we want to admit. And it's really sad and really scary. So, which is why we do this work. So got this $90,000 bill. I knew I didn't owe a cent of it. And so just to hear what the billing department had to say, like what their folks are trained to do, I just called them and said, hey, yeah, I got this bill. I had this emergency surgery. And I got this bill for almost $90,000. And the person who responded say, yeah, oh my gosh, $90,000. It's a lot of money. You can't be expected to pay all of that all at once. Can I connect you with one of our team members so you can make a payment plan? So anyway, just to my point is that third step, that is the automatically negotiating step, or the automatic negotiating step, however you want to say it, because you can't get blood from a stone, and it is what it is. And you don't have to be afraid of saying, I don't have the skills, I don't have a smooth tongue, I'm not a fast talker, thinker, English is not my first language. No, you're just going to sit there and say, in my case, this is what I'm willing and able to do. Now, I will qualify that. There are a lot of folks that do this work that will say, okay, offer 2 times Medicare rate. Start there. Well, you know what? I have to be honest with you, Justin. I'm a sucky negotiator. I'm going to start low. Like, why would I help?
Exactly.
Why? So
Exactly.
Yes, those are the 3 steps to automatically negotiate every single medical bill that you get. If it's a big bill that is going to put you in debt, meaning you can't pay it off in entirety at the end of the month within 30 days, then you're going to call and say, hey, I need to do this automatically negotiating 3 and do the 3 steps, the only right way to pay a medical bill.
I love it. So you can get a bill, you can get a summary bill in the mail to start with. Maybe it says the services was $25,000, your insurance company paid $10,000, you owe $15,000. Sweet. Then you go back and you ask for CPT codes, and you recognize that one of those services that were provided for $5,000 is incorrect. So you give them a call, they get that removed. Your bill is $10,000 now. You go back, you Google the rest of the CPT codes, and you get the Medicare rates, and you figured out all those services add up to $3,000. And even if you want to do the 2x rate, you know your range for paying the bill now is $3,000 to $6,000. You pick up the phone, you call the medical provider back, you talk to the billing department, you escalate it to a payment plan, and you try to pay that $3,000. And at the end of the day, it went from $15,000 to somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000. You saved yourself $9,000 to $12,000. And it might be a fair amount of work to call a couple of times, to do the research. But I can tell you, I mean, even if it was 1,000 hours of work, like we're talking like you're making hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars an hour per the work that you're doing.
Is that an awesome part-time gig or what?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
You got to be out there. You got to look out for yourself, and you can't fall victim or play the cards of like, oh, my medical provider, they're out there they're doing so much good, and I don't want to negotiate with this company. They helped me in a situation that was an emergency. Maybe I should have to pay this amount. I'm guessing they're hoping that's your sentiment towards the bill and towards them. Am I right?
You're 100% right. That's why I call it a wishing. I don't call it a bill. At first, you usually get in the mail. I call it a statement, or I just call it a wish list, because they're wishing and hoping and praying you'll fall for it, because most of us do, because most of us don't have basic medical financial literacy. And unfortunately, in the United States, we're the only industrialized country, frankly, that needs medical financial literacy, or you don't have financial stability.
It sucks. So I was in Tokyo in November, and I had an ear clog, and it was so bad. I couldn't hear anything. And I was like really nervous. I was like, oh no, I really don't want to get this taken care of. But I still had like 7 to 10 days left on my trip. I had to get it taken care of. And I Googled a ENT close by. I walked in and I was like, this has got to cost me an arm and a leg just because I'm an American. And they went through all the paperwork. They made me sign this form that, like, yes, since I don't have national insurance, I'm not Japanese, I have to pay the bill before I leave.
You're not a Japanese citizen, yeah.
Yep. I was like, oh, dang it. This has got to be bad. It was a great time, though. I ended up sitting down, took about 10 minutes for me as a walk-in appointment to get into the doctor. They cleared it in like 15 minutes. I walked out. They gave me the bill. It was, of course, all in Japanese, so I didn't understand it. I translated it real quick. That bill cost me $40. $40. I was like, that would have cost me hundreds, maybe $1,000 in the US to go and see a specialist like an ENT and get that taken care of. And I would have been in network and insured. Like, I couldn't imagine if I was uninsured in a situation like that, how much it would have cost me. And it does bring some light, and it made me recognize just how disappointing the medical industry is here in the US. I mean, our providers are doing a great job and a great service, and we're so innovative in this space, but the financial aspect, the billing aspect is so messed up, and it shouldn't be that way, and I'm really disappointed in that.
It is. I love your words, Justin. I really appreciate that terminology. And yes, disappointing is a great description, because we're played upon, because we love our nurses and we really appreciate our docs. We appreciate our physicians. But the thing is, it's not old school, 40 years ago where you just hang out a shingle and they write you a bill. It's actually the business of medicine has been lost by physicians probably close to, I'd say, about 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I think I want to say 2023, Justin, a statistic finally came out that for the first time, there are more employed physicians than self-employed physicians, meaning docs who traditionally hang out your shingle and you pay them, they bill your insurance, meaning they are employed by a medical center or a private equity firm. That's another conversation for another day. It's just, it's ugly. So the thing is that if the majority now of physicians are employed, meaning they're not self-employed, we're finding out what I knew, but what's known in the industry is that the physicians are just employees. The business side is two completely separate universes. And I can guarantee you, if physicians knew what was being billed in their name and done to their patients, causing immense stress, which causes real physical issues, disorders and impairments and diseases, if physicians knew what was being done in the way back office in another universe in their name, they would go apoplectic. They would just lose their stuff. You're absolutely right, Justin. You hit it right on the head. It's it's heartbreaking. And, it just makes you angry.
It does. Yes. Like I said, we'll probably have to table that for another conversation, because, or maybe just an off-air conversation between you and I, because researching you and also going through that experience in Japan made me realize how frustrated I am about this particular topic. But that's besides the point. I do want to shine the light on you for a minute before I ask my final question. Dr. Virgie, you got a book out there. You have tons of also good information that's on the web too. Where can people find and connect with you if they want to learn more about you and some of the education that you're putting out?
Go to crushmedicaldebt.com. And usually, I think it's on the site, but just in case, you can reach me by email at drvirgie, dr.virgie@crushmedicaldebt.com.
Sweet. Awesome. Dr. Virgie, final question for you. If you had the opportunity to teach a 16-week class to a group of graduating college seniors on a topic that isn't normally covered in the classroom, what would you teach and how would you teach it?
Justin, I would totally teach medical financial literacy.
Yes.
So basic medical financial literacy, and it doesn't take 16 weeks. I've condensed 30 years, 25 years as a physician, an internal medicine physician, a decade as a health insurance executive, just combined it all together and distilled it into 3 to 4 hours in a masterclass, a free masterclass, because I just want folks to have this information. So look out we're hoping to launch, we're supposed to launch this month. Life happens and people get together over the holidays and share their viruses. So all of our vendors are sick. So we're looking forward to launching our free masterclass in February for 2025 and for several months during 2025 to talk about these issues and just teach folks these issues. And we'll distill it down, like I said, for free, 3 to 4 hours.
Awesome. If someone wants to learn more about that, is that crushmedicaldebt.com?
Yes, we'll post that on Crush Medical Debt
Cool.
when we launch.
Awesome. And this is coming out at the end of February. So hopefully by this time when you're listening, that is out there. But feel free to continue to look at the website crushmedicaldebt.com if you're interested in that masterclass. Dr. Virgie, this was such a blast. Thanks so much for teaching me about a topic that I didn't really know a whole lot about. And now I feel much more equipped. And I'm kind of excited for my next doctor visit to see how this kind of plays out and what I can do from a negotiation side.
Yeah, knowledge is power, right? It feels really good, right?
It does.
Justin, you're awesome. Thank you for what you do. And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the episode. As always, I appreciate your kind words. If you want to leave us a rating and review on your podcast player right now, that would absolutely make my day. If you want to find episode show notes, our blog, and other great resources, head over to tsirpodcast.com. If you have follow-up questions, an idea for a future episode, or just want to say hi, we have a contact form on our website, and those messages go straight into my inbox, and I promise you, I will reply. But all right, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. I love you all, and you're not alone. Let's keep making it through our struggles together.